Okay, good morning or afternoon, whatever it is. This is a tutorial for the multiply illustration in Adobe Photoshop. So right now, we're going to start with some real basics. We are going to use three of the tools that we have used in the past: crop and rotate, image size, and levels, to make sure we have our scan in the best possible shape before we start trying to color it. Now I'm going to open up the scan that I did of Iron Man, and this particular thing scanned actually very well. The blacks are black, the whites are white. I don't need to crop too much out, but I'm definitely going to have to adjust the image size. So let's just start with the crop. The crop tool is here, and if I want to make this the correct size, I can make it 10 by 8 inches high and 150 for a resolution. So if I do that and I click with my crop button, you'll see that it doesn't fit my whole image. So my image is a little bit outside of that. So as long as I'm within an 8-inch square, that's going to be okay. So I'm going to hit Command period, get out of that. We're just going to go 8 by 8. That way it'll fit nicely, I believe. Let's try that. So I'm still in my crop tool. This is up underneath your menu bar. This is a contextual menu. And I'm going to click here, and that looks pretty good. So I'm going to hit return. Now this is sized correctly. If I go to my view menu item right here, I can say fit on screen. Command 0 is the shortcut for that. So that was the crop tool. If you had to rotate it, you could also do it with inside that tool. We're going to move on. The next step that I want to do is to size. Well, actually, I did size this correctly. If you don't have to crop it, you can just go to Image, then Image Size, and you can verify the size here. If this shows anything other than inches, you can just change it to inches right here. Type in whatever you want. You should constrain the proportions so that way it doesn't get squished or stretched. And you can set the resolution right here. All right, so we're going to just say cancel. So we have this cropped, we have it rotated, we have it sized, and now I'm going to go into levels. Command L is the shortcut, or you can go to image adjustments, which we have lots here. Want to mention one thing. If you scan this in grayscale, you need to change the image mode to RGB. RGB has the widest color range or gamut, so we want to be working in RGB whenever possible. All right, so we're going to go to image adjustments levels, and what you want to do is you want to make sure that your whites are white and your blacks are black. Now you can adjust these by sliding here, like say a lot of the scans that we looked at kind of looked like that, where they had like smudges and stuff like that. If that's the case, you can always pull the whiteness down a little bit. What we're going to do is I'm going to show you these tools right here. This is black point, midpoint, and highlight. So for the shadows, for the black point, I'm going to click here. Whatever you want to appear black, you just click. And in this case, let's say I click in this area. Let's see, something's not right. I'm going to hit cancel. First thing I probably need to do is unlock my background. I'm just going to double click it, say OK. Let's try that one more time. Levels, if I click my black point, I'm going to select an area that looks kind of grayish, and now if you notice, that turned much darker. And then if I have any smudges or any grayness, I can click in those areas and brighten it up a bit. So you can see this was before, this is after. I don't know if you guys can see that. So now, like, it's really solid black and solid white. Makes it a lot easier to work with. All right, so we're going to move on. I'm going to change my layer to multiply, and I'm going to lock that layer. I'm going to click down here, the bottom of my layer panel, make a new layer. So this is the layer that I can draw on, or I should say paint on. So I'm going to open up my original scan, or my original image, which is this ironman.jpg, and I want to be able to see both of those. I'm going to close this. I want to be able to see both of these files at the same time. So up here in the contextual menu in Photoshop, if you don't see it here, you can go into Window Arrange, but in most versions that you guys are using, it should be here. We're just going to click this double icon here, so now I can see both. So I'm in here. Now I can, if I have my paintbrush tool, if I hit the Option key, you'll notice that it changes to an eyedropper. So I want to get this gold color. I'm going to just grab a medium color. Looks kind of brownish. And if I start painting over here, I'm going to use my brackets to make my brush bigger. I'm painting on this. So what you'll notice here, if I can move this over just a bit, is that you can't see my image. So I'm going to pull layer 1 underneath it. Because layer 0 here is on multiply, if I unlock it, you can see that it's on multiply. It's letting anything that's not black show through. So that's a real cool thing. So what we're going to do is we have that layer locked. Now in this layer we can go ahead and paint. Now I'm just going to paint for this tutorial the mask. And I'm going to do this fairly quickly. I need to go and erase this up here. My eraser is set to 25 right now. I'm going to set that to a higher value. Alright, let me, I'm going to pull this over a little bit if I can. Just give me 1 second here. Alright, I'm going to have to hide this a little bit. We'll put it over here. Alright, so I'm going to continue to paint until I'm pretty much covered the whole thing. I can clean this stuff up later. What I'd like for you guys to do is do 2 techniques. One technique is where you're layering the color on using opacity. So instead of having my opacity up here at 100, I'm going to take this down. And I'm going to use a soft brush to kind of blend it in here. So I'm going to bring that hardness level down. Now if I'm using opacity and I'm going to option click and I'm going to grab that darker color, I can paint in here, and the more I paint, the darker it gets. If you guys can kind of see that. So I can paint a little bit here, paint a little bit here, maybe a little bit up here on the top there. Now this area right here that I know is red, I think I'm going to go in with the polygon lasso tool, and I'm just going to do a real quick selection right here. I'm going to select this part of the helmet. I'm clicking right on the lines, and that'll get hidden, those edges. And what I can do here is now I can go ahead and select that color. I can go ahead and paint that in. And since it's selected, no matter where I paint, it's only going to paint inside that thing. You know, I could also do that for the sides as well, and for down here on the chin. I just wanted to show you that technique. So now what I want to do is I want to select a lighter color. So like one of these kind of middle gold colors. And I'm going to paint with a smaller brush and start to get my highlights in here. Maybe this one could be a bigger brush, and maybe I need a slightly lighter color right here. Okay, kind of get that up there. So by doing your brush size using the brackets, and as you go you can make your brush a little bit smaller. You can always go back and forth. You know, since you're with opacity, you can blend things in really nicely. I notice there's a little highlight on the left, so I'm going to go back in with a little brighter color right here. And then I'm going to go with the darker color, and I can go with, there is a shortcut if you have your brush. If you hold the shift key and hold the bracket, to the right makes it a harder edge. So if I wanted a little bit harder edge right there, I could do that. See that with that darker color. To the left makes that brush smaller. You'll notice that if your brush edge is less hard, then you go to the left, your brush looks smaller. See, this is the hardness at 0. If I click back in here, if I do my brush to the right, holding the shift key, you can see it's larger. Now that hardness is at 100%. Basically has 4 levels when you're doing it this way. 25, 50, 75, and 100. Okay, so we're almost there. The next step that you do, once you get all your colors in there the way that you want it, then you can go in with the dodge and burn tools. Dodge tools give you highlights. So I'm going to bring my brush size a little bit down, and I'm going to paint some highlights like right here, like right where his eye is. Ooh, that looks nice. I'm going to make this a little brighter and get this stuff up here. Again, you can change your exposure level, which is kind of like opacity. If you're painting in shadows, you want to use shadows, and that would highlight the shadows. If you wanted to use the highlights and you really need to alter the highlights, you can use that. For most of what you're going to do, midtones is probably fine. All right, now what I want to do is I want to make some real sharp highlights, so I'm going to make my brush smaller. There we go. And again, I could change that edge to be quite a bit sharper if I wanted to do that. Now one thing, see protect tones, I don't know if you notice, but as I'm doing this, see how it gets like very gold? If you uncheck protect tones, what it'll do is it'll just use white, which tends to gray things out, but sometimes you might need to use that. All right, and then the next thing is the burn tool. The burn tool is for making shadows. So I'm going to, what the burn tool, if you click on an area that doesn't have color, it doesn't do anything. But if you click in an area that does have color, then you can darken things down, make things look real nice. So I need to do the top part here. I'm going to go back to this and show you that, it really adds a lot of black if you don't protect the tones, but it all depends on what you need to do. Okay, so that's the basics of it. After you're all done with this, you're going to print out a copy of this. You're just going to hide the color. You're going to print out your black and white, and then you're going to print out one that has your completed thing. And that's all I wanted to show you guys. Thank you very much for your attention. I appreciate it.